Today we're going to go over a couple of things you can do to kind of streamline your process making your gifts. I'm making two different shirts they're very different shirts, but they use similar color vinyls and stuff. So we're going to go through and talk about how to combine those so they can cut on the same sheet, but also how to move things around on your cutting mat so that you can cut things without having to load the mat as many times, but still get all the things you need. So let's dive into Design Space and I'll show you how we're going to do that. All right, so we're here in Design Space and this is my first project. You can see by my registration mark stars that are there to help me line things up eventually, that it's not all lined up right now. But I don't need it lined up perfectly right now. If you're not familiar with registration marks, make sure you check out my other video that explains them in a lot more detail. So we've got this one, but now we need the other one that has a lot of these same colors. So in order to do that, we're gonna go into File, do New Window, and it'll pull up another Design Space window. So I'm gonna slide these. So I've got one on each side, and on this one, I'm going to pull up the design for the other shirt, and I'm gonna select to customize it. So we're gonna zoom out a little bit so we can see all of that, and same thing over here, just so we can see all of it. So you'll see I have the same yellow that I'm using on both of them. So while I cut the shield design, I want to also cut this beak so I can fit it in here and not waste as much vinyl. So this is a new update Cricut just released. Finally, I'm so excited. But I can now take the beak from this project and move it over to this one. So when I tell this project to cut, it can include the beak. So in order to do that, I'm going to click on the beak and I'm going to copy it. Now I'm going to come over to my other window and I'm going to right click and I'm going to paste it. So you'll see it came in just like that. And I just wanted to make sure everything's sized properly. So what I want to do now is I want to make sure that I get the yellow positioned so that they will work nicely together. And I'm actually going to rotate this one. Because I'm cutting on a brand new piece, I'm actually going to slide this up here and I'm going to select both of my yellows. They're actually slightly different yellows in Design Space, so I'm going to change them to the same yellow. And then I'm going to come up here to align, and I'm going to align them left, and I'm also going to align them to the top. So now the beak lines up with my registration mark star and the top of the Triforce. So then I'm going to attach these together. So now those are ready to go. So I just want to double check that I've got everything else here the way I need it. Everything's attached and ready to go. I'm actually going to make this one bigger because we're done with this for now. We're going to just focus on this one. And you'll see that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different colors that I'm using. So I'm going to save it just in case. And I'm going to go ahead and click on Make It. The last thing we need to do before we can go in to tell these to cut is I need to mirror all of them. Because we're doing heat transfer vinyl, and this is something that some of them do have a little bit more of a left and a right, we're gonna mirror all of them, click continue. It's searching to find the maker. I'm connecting through Bluetooth. You can do that or connect through USB. There we go. So I have already tested this, and I know that I need the everyday iron-on setting. It's going to remind me to make sure mirror is turned on and the material is face down, shiny side down. I can leave it on default pressure. I don't need a tooling clamp A. I just need my fine point blade that comes with my machine and clamp B. And then we can go ahead and get this one cutting. Well, the yellow is cutting. I'm going to actually cut the part of the design I need to weed out of my red. So I'm looking closely at it, and it's normally pretty hard to see on video, but I can see that the main part of the design is here and that my registration mark is right here. So I'm going to just carefully make sure I cut out the part I need. I'm trying to make sure I minimize as much waste as possible. Actually going to click on canvas. So I go back. It thinks I'm canceling the cut. It already finished cutting everything, so I am going to say yes, cancel the cut. It's saved in case I need to go back to it, and I'm going to just pull up the other one. Now, because I cut the yellow with that first round, I'm actually going to hide this so it doesn't cut it. You'll see on this one that instead of using stars as my registration marks, I used hexagons. And just so I could keep it straight, I'm not actually using pink on this one. I'm using the holographic vinyl, but this made sure I didn't try and combine the two colors. But what I do want to do is try and cut this as efficiently as possible. So I'm going to slide things around, and I'm actually going to set my words as white, like the rims of the eyes, so that way they'll cut on one mat. Now the way you'll do that is to have your mat, and I'm going to look at my text and I'm going to see, okay, it's about 9 by 4. So I'm going to grab my paper cutter, and I am going to cut this down so it's closer to the size I need. White I'm cutting from, I'm already using a scrap piece, so I didn't have to cut that down at all. But we're going to put both of them on the same mat. So we're going to start by putting our black all the way down at the very, very bottom. Once again, shiny side down. Do the same thing with the white. and get that set up. Now, because these are both StarCraft Soft Flex, they will need the same cut settings, which is really nice. The holographic vinyl will have a different cut setting, so I'm just going to do that one on another mat, just so that way I can get this first one cutting, because it definitely will take a little bit longer since we've got all that text that we're doing. So make sure I've got enough space behind my machine so I can cut. Turn my machine back on. All right, so we're here, and just so I don't forget if I am adjusting settings, I'm gonna come to flip, and I'm gonna flip it horizontal. That mirrors the text without me having to remember to click the mirror button. And that's something I like, because if I come in here and I adjust things and then I go back out, sometimes I forget to click mirror again in here. So if I do it this way, where I just flip it horizontally, I don't have to try to remember to do it later. So because my black vinyl, which is what I want the text on, is at the very bottom, I'm going to grab this and slide it all the way down. And then for this one, just to try and make use of this as efficiently as possible, I'm actually going to slide it over and make sure that it covers, because my 6-inch line is totally covered by vinyl, so I can have the edge of the eye just past that line, and then everything else will still work nicely. So I'm going to go ahead and click continue, and it's going to connect to my machine. This is that same StarCraft Soft Flex, so it's still the everyday iron-on setting, just default pressure and everything. So I'm going to load this up. And we'll let that start cutting. Now I'm going to get my holographic taken care of. Because it's a lot of text with jagged little bits instead of smooth fluid letters, this is going to take a little while to cut. So while that's working, I can actually be productive and work on reading some of this other stuff. And then for this one, because I've got just tiny bits around all the edges, I think I am going to cut out part of this inner section. So I just want to double check. I've got those pieces there, that one, that one, that one. So yeah, I think I'm going to just cut out a chunk of this, because it'll leave a big enough section that I can definitely do stuff with it later. But I should still have enough support for when I'm lining up my registration marks. So this one I'm not going to weed. It is a piece of vinyl that I'm going to save for later. This one's done. So we're going to unload it, and then we're going to load in our holographic vinyl. For the Caesar Holographic, I have the choice of cutting it either on the light cardstock setting or as glitter iron-on. I know it's not actually glitter, but it does make it easier to weave. So instead of leaving it as everyday iron-on, I'm going to click where it says everyday iron-on, and I'm going to click on Browse All Materials, and I'm going to search for glitter, and I want to find glitter iron-on. So I'm going to select that. So that's the one I'm going to cut with. I'm going to click done. So I changed to glitter iron-on. I do still leave it at the default, and I've got just a little bit while that cuts, but I'm going to see how much of this I can get weeded. So now instead of having just waited for that to finish cutting, I've been able to make more progress on the project by continuing to work on weeding other sections. I'm going to pull this out and look very carefully to make sure we got the entire design on there. We did. Perfect. So that is everything cut. So now we have just a few more to weed. So for doing this one, I'm using a weeding ring. This is designed to be a nail polish holder. This is designed to hold bottles of nail polish while you paint your nails. I will link one from Amazon, but I'm going to use it when I get to the small text. And actually, since I'm not doing the small text yet, I'm going to wait. On this kind of a project, I definitely like my stab and grab tweezers because it lets me get into those kind of nooks and crannies a little bit easier for me. Different people have different weeding styles, and so it doesn't work the same for everybody. So you just kind of need to experiment and figure out what works best for you. And I'm just kind of going slow, trying to make sure I don't pull up anything. Because on heat transfer, this clear carrier sheet, the thing that's holding the vinyl together, is sticky. It does make it a little bit easier than if I was doing this out of adhesive vinyl. It's totally doable with adhesive vinyl. I just would have to be going much slower because I would be pulling up parts of my letters, especially like the edges of like my T's and stuff. Now is when the weeding ring becomes super helpful as I go and I pull out my pieces. And I can just sit them right in there. Other options, if you don't have a weeding ring or if you're not interested in getting one, are just making a pile. On your work surface, people will take lint rollers or tape and put it sticky side, either on their table or around their hand. So they get the same idea of somewhere that'll hold it without needing the actual weeding ring. So
So you want to make sure you get it all weeded before you press it. I have something on the other side. Because after you press it, it's a lot harder to fix if you've forgotten to clean out a little section. Go. So I like to make sure I flip it, over both ways, double check that everything looks good, that I can read it. If it's a design that I've been working on for a long time and it's very intricate, I will normally try and ask someone else to double check it, just because at a certain point I just start seeing what I think I should be seeing. So a second set of eyes is really helpful.
So we have all of our layers cut out. Be sure to watch my video about how I apply all of these layers as efficiently as possible.